From the start to the beginning. This phrase came to me when I was riding my motorbike a few days ago. I was wondering what I could talk about as the first part of our new theme of doing things differently. And the phrase from the start to the beginning just came to me. It's all right to be puzzled. I didn't understand it at first either. When I mentioned to SJ, my wife, she just gave me a funny look. But hopefully, by the time I have finished, you will understand it as I do now. During the days that followed this inspirational bike ride, but they are all inspirational, I have to say, the meaning of the phrase began to unravel and make itself clear to me. This is the first of our new series of doing things differently. So what better way to start than looking at the very start? The very start of MCC. When it first came into being, when Troy Perry, our founder, first had the idea that this is what was needed, in his book, Don't Be Afraid Anymore, Troy tells us that after a memorable night when a good friend of his called Tony had been arrested in a bar, along with someone else, a large number of the patrons went down to the police station, or the precinct, and stood in protest, holding lots of flowers. Tony was released the following morning. But Troy found himself unable to sleep. And so he lay on his bed and he prayed, asking God what he, Troy Perry, should be doing. And then he had the realisation that he already had the answer. He went on to talk to God, saying, and this is a quote from his book, "Lord, you called me to preach. Now I think I've seen my niche in ministry. We need a church, not a homosexual church, but a special church that will reach out to the lesbian and gay community. A church for people in trouble and for people who just want to be near you. So if you want such a church started, and you seem to keep telling me that you do, well then, just let me know when." And Troy reports that he had this still quiet voice that said to him, "Now." So, yeah, we've got it up there. Good. This is the message Troy had. The dream of a new church, a special church, as it says, a special church that will reach out to the lesbian and gay community, a church for anyone that wants to be near God. This was way before that first service in his living room in 1968. This is when God reached out and said to him, "Troy, this is it, get it done." That, to me, was the founding moment of MCC. And this, if you look at the slide, to me seems to be the true founding narrative of our denomination. This is what made Troy Perry start MCC. This prayer, this discussion, and as it says there, not a gay church, a special church. A church that did things differently, that reached out to the gay and lesbian community, which churches didn't then, but was for everyone that wanted to be near God. No one was left out. So we can see the current discussions we've been having on inclusivity are nothing new. The inclusive message was there at the very start. This is further demonstrated in what is widely thought to be a truly pivotal point in MCC history. When a young man up for ordination called Jim Sandmeyer spoke at the Third General Conference in 1972. And he not only challenged the flawed assumptions about MCC, because it was assumed then that MCC had been created as a safe place for gay people to go to church, and then when other churches were more accepting, MCC would disappear because its job was done. But he challenged that. And not only did he challenge those assumptions, but in the end, his talk on that day changed them. It changed people's thoughts, it changed people's minds. He talked for some time, but towards the end of his talk, he said the following: "If the fellowship, i.e. UFMCC, is to continue as a meaningful religious experience, we need to make these essential assumptions." We have the next slide. Our theology needs to remain basic, centred on the love of God, with genuine expressions of goodness and responsibility to others. An earlier example of what he meant was set 2,000 years ago by Jesus, who consorted with outcasts, championed the weak and raised the humble. He also said one of the essential assumptions is that Jesus believed religion should serve to bring all people close to God and one another in a spiritual love. He finished with a rousing call which brought the house down, in which he said, "If MCC is here to stay, I urge an end to middle-class introversion and the beginning of a greater commitment to opening the fellowship to more young people, to more heterosexuals, more minority groups, and a lot more on the distaff side." Now, I had to look that up, I'll be honest. I didn't know what distaff meant. But it means of or concerning women, which apparently gained him a huge round of applause from a group of women present, because at the time, MCC was predominantly gay men. So there again, we see the message of inclusivity was there. But even though it was only the third general conference of MCC, and a mere 4 years since the first service held at the Founder's House, people needed to hear that message again. People needed to be reminded, in a fairly dramatic way, of the original call placed on Troy Perry. MCC, at that time, was predominantly made of gay men. And so the message, over those years, had paled somewhat. Then up pops Jim Sandbar, shakes everyone by the shoulders and says, "The message is still there, the need is still there." Over the years, MCC became known in many places as the gay church. And even MCC members have maintained that it was founded to be a church for the LGBT community, and that it is a gay church. However, go on to the next slide. The founder of our denomination, when talking to God, clearly said it wasn't to be that way. That something different was needed. That everyone was welcome, that God loved everyone, and that the church should be for anyone who wants to be near God. When MCC got started, they talked of a three-pronged ministry. Can we see the next slide? The slide has it in detail, but I boiled it down to salvation, which is free and a gift from God. No church can take it away. And obviously no church can give it. Community. The church is family to those who need one. There's more detail up there about friendly or alone or friendless, but it boils down to the church is family. And Christian social action, standing up for all rights and against any injustices. In the early days, much like the reading we have had, all of the believers were united as one. One heart, one mind. They shared everything. They gave as they were able, as I believe we do now. And I see it like this. We have the next slide. I found this, and this just seemed to say it all, really. Start where you are. MCC started in the founder's living room. And we have started where we were when Darlene visited. After Darlene's visit last year, that's when we started what we're doing now. And it says, with what you have. MCC had a few people that turned up in the living room, sung a few songs, and a message from God delivered by Troy Perry. We're lucky enough to have a number of dedicated people who I believe are all called to be here at this time. And do what you can. Troy did what he could. He asked people into his house. Jim Sandbar did what he could. Tried to remind the denomination of where it started and the message that got it going. And we are doing what we can in supporting groups in the community, and every one of us is doing what we can to be a part of MCC Brighton. However, can we have the next slide? Like the General Conference in 1972, we still need reminding from time to time of the message Troy received. We still hear, even today, that MCC is the gay church, that its founding narrative is LGB focused. But I would challenge that and say that the words of the founder himself say otherwise. I truly believe that here at MCC Brighton at this time, we embody that first call. We are doing things differently and are here for anyone that wants to be near God. So, the title was From the Start to the Beginning. And I feel that from the very start of MCC to the beginning of this phase of MCC Brighton, the message hasn't changed. The question is, are we ready to meet that need and to be that special church? Thank you.